Jason Carter never expected his late-night experiment to change his life forever. He was just an ordinary guy, a struggling radio astronomer who spent more time in his garage-turned-laboratory than with actual people. His passion? Searching for signals from deep space, not because he believed in aliens, but because he loved the challenge. That night, Jason adjusted the frequency on his homemade transmitter. He had been working on a powerful new signal, something that could travel light years into space. He leaned closer to his computer screen, checking the waveform. "All right, let's see if this works," he muttered to himself. With a single press of a button, the signal was sent. A strong coded message burst through the endless void of space, traveling faster than he could imagine. It was meant to be a simple test, a harmless frequency ping. But unknown to Jason, the signal wasn't just a test. It was a perfect match for an ancient Velkarian betrothal call. Far beyond Earth, across the stars, the Velkar Dominion received his transmission. To them, it wasn't just noise. It was a formal proposal, a warrior's call for a mate. And the response was immediate. Back on Earth, Jason yawned and stretched his arms. Well, that was pointless, he sighed. He hadn't received any signals back. Just another night wasted. He turned off his computer and headed to bed, completely unaware that somewhere in deep space, a powerful warship had already set a course for Earth. The next morning started like any other. Jason sipped his coffee, scrolling through unread emails. Then, the ground shook violently. A loud explosion echoed from outside. His coffee cup slipped from his hands, shattering on the floor. Heart pounding, he rushed to his window. A massive crater had appeared in his backyard. Smoke and steam rose from a giant metal pod, its surface glowing red-hot. "What the hell?" Jason whispered. Before he could move, the pod cracked open. A powerful gust of air blasted outward, making Jason stumble back. From the smoke, a figure emerged, a tall, armored warrior with gleaming silver battle gear. She stepped forward, her piercing violet eyes locking onto Jason. Her silver hair flowed like liquid metal, and an energy sword rested at her side. The air around her seemed to vibrate with raw power. Then, to Jason's shock, she knelt before him. "I am Princess Xyra Velkaris of the Velkar Dominion," she declared, her voice strong and commanding. "By ancient law, I have answered your call. I stand before you now, your chosen bride." Jason blinked. His brain refused to process what he just heard. "Wait, my what?" Xyra rose to her full height, towering over him. "Do not be afraid, my mate. Our union is now sealed by honor." Jason took a step back. No. This has to be a mistake." But Xyra was already scanning the area, frowning. "Where are your weapons? Your warriors? Your battle preparations?" Jason gulped. "What are you talking about?" She narrowed her eyes. "For the wedding trials, of course." Jason felt his stomach drop. What had he just gotten himself into? Jason's heart pounded as he stared at the towering alien woman in front of him. Her silver armor gleamed under the morning sun, and her piercing violet eyes studied him with curiosity and slight disappointment. "Are you serious?" Jason asked, taking a cautious step back. "You think I propose to you?" Princess Xyra tilted her head. "Of course. Your signal was clear. It was a warrior's call for a mate. By Velkarian law, I have answered. Our bond is now sealed." Jason rubbed his temples. "Look, there's been a mistake. I was just testing a radio signal. I wasn't trying to." Xyra raised a hand, cutting him off. "No need to explain. You are a strategist, I see. You hide your strength. That is wise." She nodded approvingly. "You did not declare your battle rank. Are you a general? A warlord? Perhaps a ruler of this land?" Jason glanced at his tiny, messy house behind him. His old car sat in the driveway with a missing bumper. He was wearing sweatpants and a faded t-shirt. A ruler? Him. "I work from home," he said weakly. Xyra frowned. a leader who does not reveal his kingdom's power. Intriguing. She stepped forward, looking around. Where are your warriors? Your battle fleet? Our union must be tested in combat. Jason's stomach twisted. Combat? Yes, she said proudly. Only through battle can our bond be proven strong. It is tradition. Jason let out a nervous laugh. Yeah, well, humans don't do that for weddings. Zyra's eyes widened in surprise. No battle. She crossed her arms, looking genuinely confused. Then how do your warriors prove their worth? Their strength? Jason sighed. We usually exchange rings and say vows. Maybe throw a big party. No fights. No death matches. Zyra looked horrified. What weakness? She muttered something in her own language before turning back to him. No matter. You will learn. I will train you. Train me. Jason paled. Yes, you may be a brilliant strategist, but you lack physical strength. Do not worry. I will prepare you for battle. Jason opened his mouth to protest, but before he could speak, a loud explosion shook the ground. Both of them turned their heads toward the sky. Above them, a massive warship had appeared, sleek, black, and covered in glowing red symbols. Jason's stomach dropped. This day just kept getting worse. Zyra's eyes narrowed. It seems we are not alone. The warship's doors opened, and several heavily armed alien warriors descended to the ground. At their front stood a towering figure with dark red armor and glowing yellow eyes. His deep, growling voice echoed across the yard. So this is the human who dares claim the princess of Velkar. The warrior sneered. Pathetic. Jason gulped. Who's this guy? Zyra clenched her fists. That, she said coldly, is General Karzan, my former suitor. Jason felt his legs go weak. Oh, he whispered. That's not good. Jason's heart pounded as General Karzan stomped forward, his massive boots shaking the ground. The alien warlord was easily over 9 feet tall, his red armor covered in deep battle scars. His glowing yellow eyes locked onto Jason with pure hatred. This weak creature is your chosen mate. Karzan growled, his voice deep and menacing. A fragile human. Jason swallowed hard. Okay, rude. Zyra stepped in front of Jason, her stance strong and unshaken. I have answered his call, she declared. Our bond is sealed by honor. Karzan's lip curled in disgust. A mistake that must be corrected. He turned to Jason and jabbed a massive finger toward him. Human. I, General Karzan, challenge you for the right to claim Tyra as my bride. Face me in battle. Jason blinked. Wait. What? Zyra turned to Jason, nodding seriously. You must accept. If you refuse, it will be seen as an act of cowardice. Jason threw up his hands. Well, yeah, because I am a coward. Look at me. I don't even go to the gym. Karzan let out a cruel laugh. Pitiful. This is what the mighty Princess Zyra has chosen. A mate too afraid to fight. Zyra frowned but said nothing. Jason felt a wave of embarrassment wash over him. He wasn't a warrior, but he also didn't want to look like a total loser in front of an alien princess. All right, hold on, Jason said, thinking quickly. Let's say I do accept. What happens if I lose? Karzan grinned, showing sharp teeth. Then you die, and Zyra will be mine. Jason's face turned pale. Yeah, see, that's kind of a deal-breaker for me. Zyra suddenly spoke. There is another way. Jason turned to her, desperate for an alternative. Please, do tell. Zyra crossed her arms. Velkarian law states that a warrior may choose the form of the battle. Strength is one path, but so is intelligence. Jason's eyes widened. Wait, so I don't have to fight him physically? Zyra nodded. You may challenge him in a duel of wits. Jason's mind raced. He wasn't a fighter, but he was smart. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a way out of this alive. He turned back to Karzan, forcing confidence into his voice. All right, General Glow Eyes, I accept your challenge, but we're going to do this my way. A battle of strategy. A test of intelligence. Curzon snarled. Bah! A coward's game. Zyra smirked. Afraid you will lose. Curzon's expression darkened. The watching Vulcarian warriors murmured amongst themselves. Honor was everything in their culture. If he backed down now, it would be a shameful defeat. Finally, Curzon gritted his teeth. Fine. We will have this duel of wits. But when I crush you, there will be no escape. Jason forced a nervous smile. Yeah. Great. Can't wait. Inside, he was screaming. He needed a plan. Fast. A heavy silence filled the air as Jason stood across from General Curzon. The alien warlord loomed over him, muscles like steel, his glowing yellow eyes burning with rage. Jason, on the other hand, was sweating bullets. He had no idea what kind of duel of wits he had just signed up for, but he knew one thing. If he lost, he was dead. Vulcarian warriors formed a circle around them, watching with fierce anticipation. Thyra stood at Jason's side, arms crossed. Choose your test, Jason Carter, she said. The battle of wits must be a game of strategy. Jason took a deep breath. Think, think, think. He needed something that played to his strengths, something Curzon wouldn't understand. Then, suddenly, an idea hit him. A game humans had mastered for centuries. Jason smiled. We'll settle this with a game of chess. Curzon frowned. Chess. He glanced at his warriors. What foolishness is this? Zyra's eyes sparkled with curiosity. It is a strategy game from Earth, she explained. A battle of minds. Curzon let out a deep growl. Very well. I accept. But when I win, human, I will not grant you a quick death. Jason gulped. Great. No pressure. The game begins. Within minutes, a holographic chessboard was projected in the air. Jason took white. Curzon took black. The Vulcarian warriors watched in silence as the pieces came to life. Jason moved his first pawn forward. Your turn. Curzon scowled and moved a knight aggressively. Typical brute force strategy. Jason smirked. Maybe he had a chance. As the game progressed, Jason quickly realized something. Curzon was impatient. He played recklessly, charging his pieces forward without planning ahead. Jason, however, took his time. He lured the warlord into traps, forcing him into bad positions. Curzon's frustration grew with each move. His yellow eyes glowed brighter. His grip on the table tightened. This game is meaningless, he snarled. Jason shrugged. That's what losers say. The surrounding warriors gasped. Thyra raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. Curzon slammed his fist on the table, making the chessboard flicker. Enough of this. He froze, staring at the board. Checkmate. Jason leaned back, arms crossed. Looks like I win, big guy. The warriors murmured in shock. Curzon's face twisted in rage. He stood up, fists clenched. Jason's stomach dropped. Was this it? Was the warlord going to kill him anyway? Zyra stepped forward. You agreed to the duel, Curzon. Honor demands you accept your defeat. Curzon's muscles tensed. For a moment, Jason thought he might ignore tradition and rip him apart. But then, with a deep, furious breath, the warlord turned away. This is not over, human, Curzon spat. You may have won the game, but you will never be worthy of Kyra. Jason exhaled in relief. He was still alive. Barely. Zyra looked at him with new respect. You fought with intelligence, not strength. That is the true mark of a warrior. Jason grinned. Yeah, let's go with that. But deep inside, he knew this wasn't the end. Curzon would be back. And next time, he wouldn't play fair. Jason was still trying to steady his breath. He had won the duel of wits, but his hands were clammy, his heart racing. Curzon's burning yellow eyes still locked onto him with pure hatred, but at least the alien hadn't tried to crush him. Yet. The Velkarian warriors murmured among themselves, exchanging surprised glances. It was clear they hadn't expected a mere human to outsmart one of their greatest generals. Zyra turned to Jason with an approving nod. "You fought well, Jason Carter." Jason let out a weak chuckle. "Yeah, sure. If by fought, you mean sat in absolute terror while playing chess, then yes, I fought amazingly." Zyra smirked. "Strategy is the foundation of victory. You outplayed a warrior of great strength with nothing but your mind. That is the mark of a leader." Jason scratched the back of his head. "Cool. So, does this mean we're good now? No more challenges. No more people trying to kill me?" Before Zyra could answer, Kerzon suddenly let out a deep, growling laugh. Jason stiffened. What's funny?" The massive warlord shook his head, his lips curling into a cruel grin. "You are still weak, human, but you are not as pathetic as I thought." He crossed his arms. "Enjoy your victory while it lasts. Next time, I will not underestimate you." Jason forced a nervous smile. "Yeah, looking forward to it." "Not." Kerzon turned on his heel and barked a command to his warriors. They immediately saluted, then marched back toward their ship. The warlord gave Jason one last glare before stepping onto the ramp. Before disappearing inside, he growled, "This is not the end." Then, with a loud hum, the warship lifted off and shot into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. Jason let out a long, exhausted sigh. Well, that was terrifying. Zyra stepped closer, watching him with amusement. "You handled yourself well. I am impressed." Jason glanced at her. "So, does this mean the whole marriage thing is still happening?" Zyra raised an eyebrow. "Of course. You called." I answered. "We are bonded." Jason groaned. "Right. Because of radio signals." He rubbed his face. "Look, Zyra, no offense, but I'm just an average guy. I'm not a warrior. I don't have an army. I don't even have a gym membership." Zyra studied him for a moment, then placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "That can change." Jason blinked. "Huh." She smirked. "You are my mate now, Jason Carter. If you wish to survive in the Velkarian Empire, you must be strong." She tightened her grip. "Your training begins tomorrow." Jason's stomach twisted. "Oh no." Zyra turned, walking toward his house like she owned the place. Jason stood frozen. A warrior alien princess had just claimed him as her husband, and now she was moving in. He let out a defeated sigh. This was his life now. The next morning, Jason woke up to the sound of something heavy slamming against his front door. Bang, bang, bang. "Jason Carter, it is time." Zyra's voice rang through the house like a battle horn. Jason groaned, burying his face in his pillow. Maybe if he ignored her, she'd go away. Bang. Nope. Not happening. He forced himself up, stumbling toward the door. When he opened it, Zyra stood there in full battle armor, holding a long metal staff. Her violet eyes gleamed with excitement. "You are late," she said. Jason rubbed his eyes. "It's 6 in the morning. Warriors rise before the sun," Zyra stated. She tossed him a bundle of clothes. "Put these on. Your training begins now." Jason caught the clothes and looked at them. A tight black combat suit. It looked cool, but, yeah, see, I was thinking we could start with, like, a warm-up, maybe some light stretching. Zyra smirked. "You will stretch after you survive the first round." Jason gulped. First round. The training ground. Zyra led Jason to a clearing behind his house. She had somehow set up a training arena overnight. Wooden dummies, metal weights, and even a sparring ring made of glowing blue energy. Jason whistled. "Okay, this is a lot." Zyra handed him a small silver bracelet. "Put this on." Jason hesitated but did as she said. The moment it snapped onto his wrist, he felt a sudden weight on his body. His legs wobbled. "Whoa, What is this? Why do I feel heavy? Zira crossed her arms. Gravity training. That bracelet increases the force on your body. Your muscles will grow stronger faster. Jason groaned. Great, so I get tortured at double the speed. Zira smirked. Let us begin. Round 1. Endurance. Jason started with running laps, but the gravity bracelet made every step feel like he was carrying the 100-pound backpack. By the third lap, he was gasping for air. Faster. Tyra commanded. Jason wheezed. I can't. My lungs are dying. Your lungs are adapting. Keep running. After laps came push-ups. Jason collapsed after 10. Pathetic. Zyra sighed. On Valkyria, a child can do 100. Jason glared up at her. Yeah. Well, on Earth, a child doesn't get a gravity torture bracelet. Zyra chuckled. Excuses. Round 2. Combat. Zyra tossed Jason a wooden training sword. Attack me. Jason held the sword awkwardly. Are you sure? I don't want to hurt. Wham. Before he could finish, Zyra knocked the sword out of his hands with one quick strike. Jason yelped. Hey, I wasn't ready. You think enemies will wait for you? Zyra smirked. Again. Jason groaned. This was going to be a long day. Jason's body ached. Every muscle screamed for rest, but Zyra wasn't giving him a break. The gravity bracelet made every move harder, and after hours of running, lifting weights, and sparring with her, he was starting to question his life choices. Again, Zyra commanded, holding up her staff. Jason groaned. Seriously, I can barely move, Zyra. I'm about to pass out. Zyra's violet eyes narrowed. This is not about comfort. You must be strong if you are to survive in the Valkyrian Empire. Jason dragged his sore body to his feet. Yeah, well, I didn't ask for a marriage to an alien warrior princess. I'm just trying to survive here. Sarah tilted her head, considering his words for a moment. Then she smirked. Survival is what a warrior lives for. It's the first step toward true strength. Jason nodded weakly. He didn't feel strong. Not yet, but he was starting to understand the point. Every challenge, every failure, was pushing him toward something bigger. If he wanted to survive in this alien world, and especially if he wanted to keep his head attached to his body, he had to push through the pain. All right, Jason said, squaring his shoulders. One more round. Zyra's eyes flashed with approval. Good. That is the spirit of a warrior. The final test. They faced off again, this time in the sparring ring. Jason's legs were trembling, and his arms felt like they might fall off, but he held his stance. Zyra gave him a mocking bow. You may attack first. Jason clenched his teeth and lunged forward with the sword. He didn't expect to hit her. Zyra was fast and skilled, but to his surprise, she stepped back, narrowly avoiding his strike. Not bad, she said, her voice calm. But you must anticipate your enemy's movements, not just react. Jason's mind raced. He had to think. What would a real warrior do? He had seen Zyra fight, and she didn't just rely on brute strength. She used her speed, her reflexes, her instincts. Jason took a deep breath. This time, instead of attacking with brute force, he feigned a strike to the left, then quickly changed direction and aimed for her right side. Zyra's eyes widened for a split second, just enough for Jason to land a light tap on her shoulder. Gotcha, Jason gasped, still panting. Zyra blinked, surprised. She raised an eyebrow. Well done. Jason stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. Did I actually win a round? Zyra's smirk softened, and she gave a single nod. You did. You're learning. Jason couldn't help but feel a small rush of pride. He had done it. He had actually landed a hit on Zyra. Okay, I'll admit it, Jason said, grinning. That felt pretty good. Zyra's expression turned serious again. One victory does not make you a warrior. There is still much to learn, Jason Carter. Jason nodded, feeling the weight of her words. I get it. But hey, at least I'm not the same guy who couldn't even do a push-up this morning. Zyra studied him for a long moment before giving a rare, genuine smile. True, but don't get too comfortable. Tomorrow, we start again. Jason's smile faded a bit. Right. I was hoping for a nap. Zyra laughed, just once, a sound Jason was beginning to appreciate. No time for rest. A true warrior never rests. Jason's shoulders slumped. I think I've had enough warrior for one day. But as he walked back toward the house, he couldn't help but feel a new sense of strength inside. Maybe he wasn't completely useless after all. Maybe he could actually survive this. Jason's muscles were on fire. After another grueling training session with Zyra, he could barely walk, let alone think straight. Every step felt like it was dragging him deeper into exhaustion. But Zyra, the relentless alien warrior princess, never seemed to tire. She was still as energetic as ever, her eyes glowing with determination. Come on, Jason, she called, watching him struggle to keep up. The date is not over. We still have much to do. Jason shot her a tired look. Zyra, I'm a human. I don't even have the energy to fight the laundry. Zyra narrowed her eyes. You will need more than energy. You will need strength and skill to survive when the time comes. Rest now, and you will be weak later. Jason groaned, but he couldn't deny she had a point. He had barely survived Karzan's challenge, and if anyone else showed up to challenge him again, he'd be in serious trouble. Fine, he muttered, dragging himself over to a bench to sit down. I'll do one more thing, but only if I can get a break after. Zyra stood tall, hands on her hips. You will train until your body is ready. Then you will rest. The rest of the galaxy will not wait for you to catch up. Jason leaned back on the bench, closing his eyes for a moment. Why had he ever thought this was a good idea? Getting caught in an alien marriage was bad enough, but now he was stuck trying to turn himself into a warrior with no real training. Before he could sink too far into his frustration, Zyra's voice cut through the air again. I have a challenge for you. Jason groaned. Not another one. No, this is different. Zyra replied, her tone suddenly more serious. I want you to go into the forest and bring back one of the glowing stones. They are a rare and powerful resource. Bring one back, and I will allow you a day of rest. Jason raised an eyebrow. A glowing stone. That sounds easy enough. Zyra's smile faded slightly. Do not be so quick to underestimate the forest. It is filled with dangers you do not yet understand. The stones are guarded by the Karzur, a deadly creature that will protect them at all costs. Jason's stomach dropped. Wait, what? You didn't mention anything about deadly creatures. You are stronger now, Jason Carter. You can do this. Zyra's voice was full of confidence, but when Jason looked at her, he could see the concern hidden beneath the warrior's calm exterior. Fine, he said with a sigh. But if I die, I'm blaming you. Zyra chuckled. I will hold you to that. Jason slowly got up, feeling his aching muscles protest. All right, where's this forest? Follow the path behind the training area, Zyra instructed. Stay on the trail and keep your wits about you. The Karzur is not easily fooled. Jason nodded, feeling the weight of the task ahead of him. He was exhausted, scared, and still had no idea what he was really doing in this alien world. But there was no turning back now. He set off into the forest, determined to prove that he could handle whatever came his way. And maybe, just maybe, he would finally earn that rest he so desperately needed. The forest was darker than Jason expected. The trees towered above him, their thick branches blocking out most of the sunlight. He could hear the rustling of leaves, the chirping of unknown creatures, and the faint whisper of wind through the branches. But there was something else too. something that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Eyes. Jason felt as if something was watching him, tracking his every move. His instincts told him to turn back, but he gritted his teeth. He couldn't afford to fail. Not after everything Xyra had put him through. He followed the path through the forest, his steps slow and cautious. The glowing stones weren't easy to find, but Jason had faith that he would spot one. Xyra had told him they glowed faintly in the dark, their light barely visible among the trees. After a few minutes of walking, he spotted the first one. The faint blue glow was barely visible through a thick patch of bushes. It was a small stone, no bigger than a fist, but the glow was mesmerizing. Jason reached out to touch it, but as his hand neared, a low growl rumbled from behind him. He froze. The growl grew louder, and before Jason could react, something massive charged out of the shadows, knocking him to the ground. The creature that stood over him was unlike anything Jason had ever seen. It was a massive, four-legged beast with shiny black fur, glowing red eyes, and sharp claws that gleamed in the low light. It had the body of a predator, sleek and built for speed, but its teeth were like daggers, ready to tear through anything that came close. Jason's heart raced as he scrambled back, pushing himself away from the creature. His legs felt like jelly, and every instinct in his body screamed at him to run. But the Kar-Zur was too fast. The creature lunged at him, its claws slashing through the air. Jason barely managed to roll out of the way, feeling the breeze of the creature's attack miss by inches. Think. Jason's mind raced as he scrambled to his feet. He had to fight. If he didn't, he wouldn't survive. Without thinking, Jason grabbed a large branch from the ground and used it as a makeshift weapon. He swung it at the Kar-Zur's face, connecting with its shoulder. The creature yelped, but it barely slowed down. It lunged again, faster this time. Jason tried to dodge, but the beast's claws slashed across his arm, leaving deep gashes. Jason gritted his teeth, blood dripping from the wound, but he refused to give up. He wasn't going to die here, not like this. He raised the branch again, this time aiming for the creature's eyes. He swung with everything he had, and this time he hit his mark. The Kar-Zur howled in pain, stumbling back. Jason didn't waste a second. He ran for the glowing stone. The Kar-Zur was momentarily distracted by the pain, and that gave Jason just enough time to grab the stone and hold it in his hand. The moment he touched it, the glow intensified, and the creature let out an ear-splitting roar. Jason knew he had to move fast. He bolted down the path, not daring to look back. The Kar-Zur was still in pursuit, but it was slower now, stumbling from the blow to its eyes. Jason's heart pounded in his chest as he pushed himself harder, the pain from his arm, a distant ache compared to the fear coursing through his veins. Finally, after what felt like hours, Jason broke through the trees and saw the clearing ahead. He could hear the familiar sound of Xyra's voice calling his name. Jason. Jason stumbled into the clearing, collapsing to the ground, the glowing stone still clutched in his hand. He barely had the strength to speak. I got it," he panted. Xyra was at his side in an instant, her eyes scanning his bloodied arm with concern. "You did well, Jason Carter." Jason managed a tired smile. "I didn't die, at least." Xyra nodded. "Not today." Jason looked at the glowing stone in his hand. "So this is it. I get my rest now." Xyra's smile was faint but proud. "You earned it. But remember, this is only the beginning. There are many more challenges ahead." Jason closed his eyes, exhaustion taking over. He had survived. And for the first time, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he was starting to understand what it meant to be a warrior. Jason's body was sore, his arm still throbbing from the slash he'd received in the forest. But as he sat there, catching his breath, he felt something else, something he hadn't felt before: pride. He had survived the trial. He had faced the Kar-Zur, and despite the odds, he had come out on top. Jason had done what no one, not even he, thought was possible. He had earned the glowing stone. Zaira knelt beside him, her eyes scanning the stone with admiration. "You did well, Jason Carter. This stone will help you on your journey." Jason grinned, despite his exhaustion. "I didn't exactly make it easy for you, huh?" She smiled, though her expression was still serious. "Surviving in the Valkyrian Empire is not easy, but you're learning. That is what matters." Jason held up the glowing stone in his hand. The light it emitted seemed to pulse with energy, and he couldn't help but feel that this little rock had somehow made him stronger. Maybe not physically, but something inside him had changed. He wasn't just the scared human who had accidentally called an alien princess anymore. "What's next?" Jason asked, his voice hoarse from the battle in the forest. "Is it more training? More creatures to fight?" Zaira's smile faded into something more serious. "No. Your training will continue, but the next challenge will not be as simple as a creature or a duel. The true test will be your ability to lead." Jason blinked. "Lead? I'm not a leader. I'm just trying to stay alive here." Zaira's eyes softened, a rare moment of understanding crossing her face. "You are my mate, Jason Carter. You are part of the Valkyrian Empire now. It is your destiny to rise, not just for me, but for your people." Jason felt a lump form in his throat. He had always considered himself an average guy, a man who was never meant for greatness. Now, Zaira was asking him to lead, to become something more. But as he looked at her, something clicked. Maybe this wasn't a burden. Maybe, just maybe, it was a chance to prove not just to Zaira, but to himself, that he was capable of far more than he ever thought. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady now, a new sense of resolve building inside him. "I'll lead. I'll be ready." Zaira's eyes gleamed with approval. "Good. But remember, being a leader means protecting those you care about. And sometimes you will have to make difficult decisions." Jason nodded. He had seen the power that came with being in the Valkyrian Empire, and he knew Zaira wasn't the only one who could challenge him. He would need to be ready for anything. The wind blew through the clearing, rustling the leaves above them. Jason felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The road ahead would be difficult. It would be filled with battles and challenges he couldn't predict. But for the first time since this whole crazy adventure began, he felt like he had a purpose. He wasn't just some average human anymore. He was something more. A warrior, a leader, a husband. And as Jason stood, looking out at the vast horizon ahead, he knew that the true adventure was just beginning. "Let's go," Jason said, holding his head high. Zaira smiled. "The galaxy awaits you, Jason Carter, and so does your future." Together, they walked forward, toward the unknown, ready to face whatever came next.